I'm brand new. I'm doing the work of 3 people. I didn't have energy at the end of the day to create content anymore. I was so drained. So I was like, something has to give. And I decided to quit. So a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just not good at money. I don't know how to be good with money, but it's a skill. Just like you don't know how to ride a bike, you get on the bike and then you learn. People think that they don't make enough to start saving or investing, when the reality is if you allocated $50 a month towards your savings and investments, you would be able to do it. But what you actually do is you try to save after you've spent your money.
Welcome back to the Many Roads podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya. And today I have with me probably one of the most recognizable faces in the world of personal finance, especially if you're in Canada, right? You've probably seen her in ads, you've probably seen her on YouTube, you've seen her on your Instagram reels and Instagram feed and TikTok and all that stuff. Even LinkedIn actually. So, anyways, help me welcome Reni Odetoyinbo, aka Reni the Resource, to the Many Rose podcast. Welcome, Reni.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That was a sweet, sweet, sweet introduction. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to talk to you because I have, I guess, watched your journey for a couple of years now, and I'm really excited because, like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that you talk about is it's really helpful, and you've helped so many people. You give so much value, and I think, of course, people want more. They always want more, anyways.
Always, always. Yes. Thanks for having
Right?
me.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, so let's get into this. I kind of envision this conversation in two parts. The first part, touching a little bit on your journey and, content creation and all that stuff. And the second part being like almost like a personal finance 101 masterclass, for lack of better words. So let's start with the first part. I did a bit of a deep dive and I saw that you weren't always a content creator. Uh,
I
so I
was
saw
not.
that so I saw that, it was marketing, it was business analysis. But could you walk us through kind of that transition and how you got to where you are kind of today, right?
Yeah. So as you said, I started as a business analyst. So I went to the Schulich School of Business at York University here in Toronto, and I graduated. I did like a few internships throughout my career there or during school, and they were all in business and analytics, and they were cool. I was like, okay, let me work on this after I graduate. So I got a full-time job at the Bank of Montreal after I graduated, and I was working in um, their business operations team, I believe it was called. But what I was doing was not a business analyst role at all. It felt like I was doing more administrative and ops work. And after 3 months of being there, I was like, how do people do this for the rest of their life? Like I was just confused because I'm always someone who likes to learn new things. And I felt like after 3 months, I probably learned everything I needed to learn in that role. So I started to think, okay, what can I pivot and transition into? And when I was in Schulich, I studied marketing, and then also I had some operations and other stuff. But marketing was the thing that I really specialized in. So I was like, okay, maybe I can use my marketing experience to get a job. But the reality is, if you don't have actual work experience in marketing, it's very, very, very hard to get a job because people just want to hire someone that is trained already, right? They don't want to hire you and then have to train you on what to do. So it was a big struggle to get into marketing. But I think it was 9 months later or so, I finally found a job. And that was in the marketing department of BMO. So it was through networking, really. Like I was telling everybody that wanted to hear that want to be a marketer. I studied marketing. I'm ready to get into it. And then I finally found a job in marketing in their wealth management department. And my job there was to attract ultra high net worth clients to the bank so that our investment advisors would invest their money. And obviously, I'm very passionate about financial literacy, investing. So it just felt like a perfect fit. I worked there from 2018 to 2019 to 2021. And I had like a few promotions while I was there. And in my last and in 2020, I bought my first house. So I was 23 at the time. I had been investing for 5 years at that time, and my portfolio had grown to a size where it was big enough that I could put a down payment down for a house. So I did. And then what happened? I guess I made a YouTube video or so, and it just started doing pretty well after
Hmm.
that. And so a year later, I decided to quit my corporate job and see if I could pursue this full time. 5 years later, or 4 years later, I'm still here doing it full time, and it's been a really great journey so far. So that's a little bit about the journey. I'm sure I missed some steps, but yeah.
No, that's incredible, Rennie, because I mean, and I know you've kind of walked us through it in such a linear way, but I know when you were in those moments and taking those decisions, it wasn't so like cookie cutter and straightforward, right? Could you
At
talk
all.
about could you talk about the decision to leave corporate and like chase a passion that you're not really guaranteed a certain, kind of result?
Yeah, it was a big decision and it definitely took me months. Like obviously in my explanation it sounded like I just quit, but no, it took me months and months and months to actually decide to quit. And the reason I would say the main reason why I decided to quit was because I felt like I was burnt out from the job. So I had gotten a promotion in January of 2021, and that job, although it was great, more money, more higher title, whatever, my new boss was stressing me out, okay? And also everybody it was a team of only 3 people. So, small teams have a lot of work typically. They're doing a lot
Yeah.
of work. And then 2 of those people went on vacation. Not vacation, they went on leave because they were also stressed out. So one of them was so stressed out, she went on leave. And then the other one, she had like some family stuff, so she went on leave as well. So it was me and my manager doing the work of I don't know anything at this point. I'm brand new. I'm doing the work of 3 people and I have no idea what I'm trying to learn my own job. Now I'm learning 3 jobs. So I was just very stressed and I told them like, okay, if they're on leave, can we replace them? Like I need help, support, but it just wasn't coming. So I thought, and then I was also doing YouTube at the side, but by this time I felt like my YouTube channel was suffering because I didn't have energy at the end of the day to create content anymore. I was so drained that I didn't even want to make videos. So I was like, something has to give. And then in June of 2021, I got some brand deals and then I had affiliate income and my AdSense and it amounted to about $3,000. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh. Like, I think at the time I was probably making $3,500 a month at work. So I was like, wow, 3,000, like this is a lot of money. Now looking back, $3,000 is before tax. So it's actually not, it was like more like 2,000 something dollars, but whatever. I was
Yeah.
super excited. And I was like, if I can make $3,000 from my content, then imagine if I could do it full time. I could make $10,000. That was my logic.
Yeah.
And I decided to quit my job on October 1st, 2021. I quit my job. And the decision was really hard because I did love the company. Actually, I'd been there for a while. I enjoyed my team, my previous team at least. And it was just a good work environment, except for this new team. But I just decided that I might as well. Like I'm young. I have no kids. I don't have any apartment. I'm just young and single, so I might as well. This is the time to take the leap. Basically, no
Mm.
one is depending on my income, so I
Yeah.
decided to quit my job, and I gave them like a month's notice. So just so I could also ease myself into the fact that I was no longer going to have a job as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I took that leap. It was probably a crazy decision at the time, but I had some faith that I would be able to do it.
No, Randy, that's great. I guess the follow up question I have is for someone watching this or listening to this who's kind of in a similar position right now, considering like leaving corporate to like, go into this maybe entrepreneurship, right? Um, were there certain things that you did, like, because I've heard other entrepreneurs talk about like they wanted to save 6 months of expenses before they quit. Were there any steps like that that you took before putting in the notice of, hey, I'm done?
Yeah. So I am not one to tell anybody to quit their job without a plan or without some money
Mm.
saved. Like I know a lot of people do preach that, but it's not for me. My nervous system would be on overdrive if I did that. So I agree with that, where you should save at least 3 months, 3 to 6 months ideally of like your annual or your monthly expenses. So let's say you spend $3,000 a month, then you need to save at least 9,000 all the way up to $18,000. And for me, of course, I've been saving and investing since I was 18 years old. But what I had really done was I invested in the company's shares. So I did like the share ownership
Okay.
plan from the day that I joined the company. So by the time I left, those shares were actually $30,000 that I had there.
Wow.
So That was my emergency fund or get out fund, whatever you want to call it. So I totally agree that everybody should have some money stocked away, and not just for like, of course, living every day, but when you have money aside, it allows you to make decisions in your business that aren't rooted in fear or in lack, right? If
Mm.
you have no money and you just have to pay the bills, you're going to take any deal that comes your way, right? But for me, I could say, I'm not going to take this right now because I know I have some money and cash laid to the side. So I think that every single person should have at least a few months savings. With this economy, 12 months would be ideal, but obviously that can take a very long time. That can take a
Yeah,
very long time. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, there's something you mentioned in passing. You said you've been investing since you were 18. That is crazy because most people are just getting into investing in their 20s. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, I have a child now, and because I started investing in my 20s, I'm starting to invest for my child, like from he's like 3, but he already has a portfolio. But
Nice.
I mean, I guess my parents didn't know that this was a thing, or I grew up in Nigeria, so the kind of investments that were done was very different to what we know investing to be today. But can you talk
Mhm.
about what that experience was, and what was that from your parents? Like who was that influence in terms of investing early?
Yeah, so it's all thanks to my parents. So my parents moved here when I was 4 years old in the year 2000. We lived in England before that and we moved here. And when my parents moved to England, my dad realized that he knew nothing really about money. So he decided that he would make it a point to learn the financial system that he was moving into. So he read books, he went to seminars, he was very active in learning about money, just in general, like saving, budgeting, all that stuff. And then he made a vow to himself that his kids also would know about money and they would be financially literate. So that's what happened. And by the time I was 4 years old, we opened my first bank account. And anytime aunts and uncles would come to the house and like give us money, I would have to put a percentage of it into the bank. Like it taught me those habits from a very early age. And they were also pretty open about money. Like my dad would show me his investment portfolio and show like, oh, look how the money is growing. My mom would always tell me, if you want to live this life where you go on vacation every year, you you need to get a good job and you need to just invest the money as well. So she played on the lifestyle aspect, where my dad taught me the technical behind skills behind it. And then by the time I was 18, they sat me down, or my dad sat me down, and he taught me about how to purchase my first stock. So I think it was just a few days after my 18th birthday that I actually purchased my first stock, and that was the start of my journey. He also taught me about credit cards because I lived on campus, and he told me that you know they're gonna attack you basically with credit cards. They're gonna push them on you, and you can take them, but you need to make sure you're responsible with them. And he explained to me the horrors of credit cards and everything. So I feel like that really gave me a leg up because I didn't have to start my journey in debt, basically my
Yeah,
adult life in debt. I started it with investments, and I just got into the habit of every single time I got paid, I would put some money towards my investments. And yeah, it served me pretty well. This will be the 11th year that I've been investing. So it's been a great journey so far.
that's mind blowing. Honestly, that's mind blowing. You talking about credit cards just like brought some stuff back to my memory. I went to University of Ottawa, and like international student, right? There's no credit cards in Nigeria. So like I got here and it's first year of university, and there's all these banks, they're like, oh, just sign up for this. It's $1,000. And I'm like, what do you mean you're gonna give me $1,000?
Yep.
Because in my head I was like, oh, this is like it's like free money or something. But
Yeah.
like thank God, because I had I guess a good community around me, and they were like, no, it's not, and some people have gotten into a lot of trouble just because of that. Can you talk about how there's so much discipline required in the world of finance, and how we're supposed to kind of grow in that discipline as well?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that your experience is probably the norm rather than my experience, right? Most
Yeah.
people are given a credit card at age 18 and then they max it. Like, because the problem is that nobody educates us about how to use it. They just give it to us. And I actually think it's a very predatory tactic. I feel like we shouldn't really have these booths on campus. But who's gonna stop it? They're gonna keep doing it, but I just feel like it's really predatorial, especially when I was on campus. I remember they were offering like, oh, sign up for a credit card and you win a chance to get a free iPad or an
Mm,
iPhone or like big things. Of course, we're going to say yes to the credit card, right? But the
yeah.
company is banking on this person. They're going to get in way more debt than this iPad ever cost us. So we're going to make a lot of money off of this person, right? So
Mm,
I think discipline is so important when it comes to just your personal finances in general. And the reason is because these habits will money basically intersects every single part of our life, right? It's in every single part of our life. And if you don't get the habit down when you are making a little bit of money, then when you're making a lot of money, you'll see the effects times 10.
mm,
um, so simple things like every time you get paid, you put a percentage towards future you. I like to call that, future Reni gets at least 20% of my income every single month. So that's
okay.
saving or investing. And I think a lot of Christians have the habit of tithing every single time they get paid. Same concept. You're tithing, you
Mm,
tithe to God, and then you also give some money to yourself. And I feel like that habit and discipline will take you very far. A lot of people tell me, oh, I don't make enough to save. I don't make enough to invest. But trust me, that if you do not save now, you will not save when you make 10 times the amount. It's just what
yeah.
happens because you need to build the discipline to have those that you need to build the skill actually because
Mm,
money is a skill. And a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm just not good at money. I don't know how to be good with money, but it's a skill. Just like you don't know how to ride a bike, you get on the bike and then you learn. So it's the same thing when it comes to your money.
yeah. No, that's amazing, Randy. I want us to like kind of pitch a tent there for some time. Can you sort of let's I guess let's create this hypothetical scenario. There's um a young student or a young worker just graduated school, got their first job, and let's say every month after taxes, this is just hypothetical, $5,000, they get paid $5,000. Now, let's use those percentages. Like, how would you encourage people to kind of go about spending that money in terms of the
Mhm.
percentages, and what amounts do you put towards expenses, all that stuff? Can we do that?
Yeah. So there's this rule called the 50-30-20 rule. This is, I would say, the basic budgeting method that most personal finance creators or experts will tell you about. And the 50-30-20 rule says that any increase that comes into your account, you're going to put 50% of it towards your essential expenses. So your needs, things like your shelter, like your food, like things that you basically cannot live without. Then 30% goes towards your wants. Your wants would be things like entertainment, you want to travel, things that you would like to do, but maybe are not essential. And then 20% goes towards your savings or investments or paying down debt. I think that is a good baseline for people to have, but it shouldn't be like ideally you will save and invest a bit more than that. But I think it's a good baseline for people just to have a guide of how to organize their money. Um, and I also think that it depends on where you live if this will actually be realistic,
Mm,
right? So
yeah,
if you live downtown Toronto, it may be a bit different than if you're living in Saskatchewan, right? So
exactly.
I think it's just a guideline, but you should tailor it to your unique situation. But I find that it's a good way to just look at your money and see, I'm spending like 70% of my money on wants. Maybe I need to dial that back a bit because ideally I should be closer to 30. So yeah, I think that would be the first method. And the second method that I like to use is the $0 method or, um,
Okay.
zero, what is it called? Yeah, zero, what is it called? Oh my God, I'm blanking. It's called $0. Okay. Anyway, zero method. Let's call it that. And it's
Yeah.
basically when you are allocating a job to every single dollar that's in your budget. Or that you have. So let's say you have $5,000. You are allocating that $5,000 across every single thing that you need to do. So at the end of the month,
Mm,
you basically have $0. So you say, okay, 1,000 is going towards my rent. This much is going towards my savings. This much is going towards my investing. This much is going towards my fund. And that way you've pre-plan what you're going to do with your money before it actually happens. So you're giving every single dollar a job. Just make sure that your money is not just sitting idle because when money does sit idle, it tends to fly away and get spent.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah,
No, Rennie, I like I think I prefer the $0 thing because I think that's what most of us find is a little bit much more like natural to do in the sense that
yeah,
everything is accounted for.
yeah.
But I also like the idea of having like a minimum percentage going towards a specific bucket. You know,
Yeah.
I guess this is the follow up question now. You probably talk to a lot of people about finances, and you've had over, I'm sure you've had over 1,000 of these conversations. In your opinion, what are some of the major pitfalls that a lot of people encounter in this like journey of financial literacy?
Okay. There are a lot, actually. There are many, many, many pitfalls. I have an accountability group, which is a group where I have basically group coaching with 100 and maybe 70 people right now in my group.
Uh-huh.
And we have 2 calls a month where we basically talk about financial literacy. So basically I've seen a lot, right? And I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years, this group. I would say one of the major pitfalls that I see is that I think I've said it before, but people think that they don't make enough to start saving or investing. When the reality is, if you allocated $50 a month towards your savings and investments, you would be able to do it. But what you actually do is that you try to save after you've spent your money. But the real way to do it would be to save before you spend your money. So
Okay.
I would say the major pitfall is that people just they spend first and then they want to save the excess, but there's nothing left because you spent it all. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I think people want to make quick money as well. They are
Uh-huh.
in this culture where it's like, okay, if I'm going to invest, I need a 20, 20% return in 2 days. And I'm like, that's not how this works. Usually when you're getting that kind of return, it's because there's some luck associated with it, for example, gambling, or it's fraudulent activities that are happening, or of course, crypto, which is high risk, but also
Mhm.
high reward, but also very high risk as well, where you could
Yeah.
lose all that money. So people a lot of times don't have the patience to just sit and watch their money grow. And I'm just like, why? You're going to lose a lot of money doing these risky things that of course you
Mhm.
can make big money, but it's most people who I've met who now come to me for investing, they've gambled a bit with their money and now they're like, okay, I've learned my lesson. But instead, we should all just learn our lessons from everybody else who has gambled and say, I'm not going to dabble into that. So my philosophy is start with the stock market, get your feet wet in the stock market, build a solid portfolio, and then you can add some riskier things on top of your basic portfolio that you have. But start with the basics. Start with the stock market. It is the easiest thing to understand, is also the most accessible thing. You can start investing with literally $1 if you wanted to. So
Mhm.
you don't need a lot of money to start investing. But it's the habit of just putting that money away every single month and knowing that you're investing for the long term, not just the short term. Yeah. So those would be 2 pitfalls. And then I would say the third one is just, it's very basic, but just not simply tracking their spending. So again, it's hard to know where your money is going if you're not actually paying close attention to it. So what
That's
I
right.
like to do is every single Sunday, I sit down and I track how much I have spent this week. And the reason I do it once a week is because daily is very overwhelming for me. Like I can't sit down and track daily. And I used to do it monthly, but by the time the month is over and I'm tracking, it's like I can't make any changes to what happened. So what's the point? So I decided to start doing it on every Sunday. It's more manageable and allows me to just see how much money I have spent this week and how much money I have left in my budget for the rest of the month. And I would say most people do not do this. So the first thing I do when I work with people is I sit with them and we track their spending. And most people, again, they're shocked that, oh my gosh, I didn't know I spent this much. Like I had no idea. It's kind of like I recently started going to the gym and I have a personal trainer and she was telling me, like, she was asking me, how many times a month do you eat out? And I was like, I don't know, like maybe 2 or 3. And then she told me, okay, track your eating out this week. Why did I eat out 3 times in one week? Like, so I think we have a habit to underestimate and give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. But if
Mhm.
you want to actually go with your money, you have to see it on paper, not just in your head. It's pointless if it's in your head. Yeah. So, and then the last thing I see is really about debt. So a lot of people see that credit card, as you said, as free money. It's just money that they can do whatever with, but they don't actually realize just how expensive credit card debt is. The average credit card in Canada is 19.99% interest, and people don't realize that that compounds on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
it's getting huge. You could have a balance of $100, but if you pay the minimum payment for the next, if you keep paying the minimum payment, in fine print, they legally have to tell you how long it will take you to pay off this debt if you keep paying the minimum payment. And it will say something like 3 years later, you'll be able to pay off this debt. Is that not crazy? Like, I feel like we should all be using our credit cards like they are debit cards instead, where it's like, if I don't have the money available in cash to pay it off by the end of this month or by the due date, I'm not going to use this credit card. And again, that's also about building discipline, the discipline to only use what you have available in cash.
Those are outstanding, Rennie. And I think everyone can sort of relate to this because at some point in everyone's journey, they've kind of had to like sit eh, and I guess confront the whole issue of debt or the whole issue of I'm overspending or the issue of like I don't know where my money's going, and but I guess for you now, because now you're in a place where you're an entrepreneur, can you talk about the difference in mindset you've had to embrace? Because running personal finance and running like business finance, those could be quite different, but I'm sure there's similarities as well.
Yeah. I think they're actually very similar, and but just because you are good with your personal finance does not mean you'll necessarily thrive at being good at your business finances. So similar, some things that have helped me is you have to understand the numbers. Like you always have to be running the calculations of, okay, if I charge X amount of dollars for my service, what actually goes into it on my side, and how am I accounting for the cost of my time, the cost of the service, the goods that I'm putting into this, the everything that goes into it. But I think most business owners, of course, if let's say you are a wedding singer and you go and sing at weddings, it's probably your passion. You like singing, so maybe you
Mhm.
won't charge actual rates that's that you should actually like a rate that you should be charging because it's like, oh, this is my passion, I'm just making a bit of money from it. But no, that is the wrong approach to have. We need to, if you want to run a for-profit business, of course, then you
Yeah.
need to understand the numbers. How long is it taking you to get to this location? Are you charging your clients for the transportation to get to that location? How
Mhm.
much is your time worth per hour? And don't think about just the time that you're singing. Think also about the hours that it takes you to prep for this, the meetings that you're going to have before the event, et cetera, et cetera. I had to do that when I wanted to start or build, like scale my business when I went full time. And what I did was I worked backwards using this chart that I found online. And it basically was like, what is your hourly rate? And I had to go and I saw that like, okay, I want to make $150,000 this year. I only
Okay.
want to work 50 or 48 weeks this year. And I am going to work whatever, how many hours. Basically, I kept working backwards until I got to an hourly amount. And that showed me that I need to charge at least like 120 something dollars per hour. This was like a few years
Yeah.
ago. And I was like, so then I went back and I said, okay, for a brand deal, for example, let me actually time how long it takes me. And I looked and I saw that this little brand deal that seems like 30 seconds in front of a camera is taking me 10 hours to record, because
Mm.
I don't just have to do the script. I'm not just recording the video, but I have to script it out. I have to go back and forth with the clients, just decide on their vision and see if mine aligns with theirs. I have to edit it. Like there's so much that goes into it that 30 seconds takes 10 hours to produce. So I
Mhm.
had to now I had to factor in my price into that as well. And also the price of everything else, like my editing equipment and everything that goes into it. So, I would say it's pretty similar where if you don't look at the numbers, you will not know where your money is going. And it's the same thing with your business finances. I think a problem that a lot of business owners have is that they have their full-time job. So it's basically supplementing their hobby, their business,
Yeah.
which it's at that point it's an expensive hobby because you're just supplementing your business with this extra income. But I think most people should, or everybody should separate their business finances and their personal finances so you can actually see how much you're making from your business. And again, a lot of people will be shocked to see that they're not making much because they never decided to run the numbers. So yeah, I think that was a long-winded answer, but I hope that was helpful.
No, it was really helpful. And there's, I guess, something I wanted to quickly like I guess, point out was the fact that you said, a lot of people don't know like how much to charge, you know. And another thing that I've found as well, like especially when talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, is so the ones who have an idea of what to charge are afraid to charge it. Can you
Yeah.
talk about like that whole thing where it's like I should be charging $300 an hour, but I'm scared that they might not pay $300 an hour. Could you talk about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. I definitely have struggled with this in the past, but then I was like, I might as well try. I think that's my motto. Like, I might as well try it. And if it doesn't work, then, we lower the price. And the first time I spit out a big number like that,
Mhm.
I got it. And I was like, well, you might as well shoot your shot. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The way I would say some things that can help you feel comfortable offering or charging the rates that you truly deserve is one, talk to other peers who are in the industry, right? Oftentimes when you see people that it's like, okay, I'm doing the exact same thing as them, and then you ask them what they're charging and things, then you feel more comfortable charging it because you know that other people are also charging that same thing, right? So it
Yeah.
gives you a bit of legitimacy. For me, somebody actually, one of my followers responded to my story, and she works in influencer marketing, and she told me, I think I shared a bit, influencers share like, oh, I made this much money in a month, da, da,
Yeah.
da. I
Yeah.
shared one of those videos. I was like, wow, I hope I get there. Da, da. And she responded and she said, you know, like you should be charging at least $5,000 for a reel. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she explained that, oh yeah, I work in influencer marketing and like you have amazing numbers. Your engagement is like off the charts. Da, da, da. You should be charging at least $5,000. And I was like, okay. So then I charged. That's literally how I shot my shot and it worked. So thank you to
Mm.
her. Like I need to take her out to lunch or something to thank her for that. But I truly think if you know what the market is charging, it will make you feel a bit more comfortable. And also, it's about understanding the value that you have as well. And this is a mindset shift, I would say,
Okay.
that you have to come to. Like, I am worthy of charging these rates
Mhm.
because I offer true value in my services. And if you're not charging, if you're not offering value, then maybe that's something you need to address first. But most of us are actually giving our all and charging true value. So we should be able to stand firm on the prices that we want to charge. But it is a mindset shift, definitely. It's just similar to in your personal finances, asking for a raise or asking for negotiating your salary. It's just a muscle that you have to learn to build. I didn't negotiate my first salary, but when I realized that the norm is actually to negotiate your salary, then I learned about it and then I applied it to one interview and it worked. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this forever. So it's just a muscle that you need to build. And there's a personal finance creator called Ramit Sethi. He talks about the more you build your competence, the more you will feel confident. So I think it's about building your competency in whatever you're trying to do. And then it will give you the chest to say, okay, I can actually ask for whatever I want.
Yeah. So essentially, like by becoming better, you get more confident to say, okay, I can actually bill you guys 5K,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly. And also, I would say people should try to build incrementally. Like, let's say your rate
Mm,
is 1K and you realize that you should actually be charging 3K for something. Maybe let's go to 1.5 and then 2 and then 2. You can do it slowly because the smaller steps don't feel as overwhelming as just jumping to the big the big numbers.
yeah, for sure. Now, Rennie, we've talked about entrepreneurship, but you brought up like raises and like negotiating salaries. And I feel like a lot more people might be able to relate to that conversation because a lot more
Yeah.
people have jobs, right?
Mhm.
So, and you said in the past you've had to do this. How did you go about that?
Yeah, so the reality hit me when it was at that first job as well that I mentioned as a business analyst. And I got a call from the recruiter saying, excuse me, I got a call from the recruiter saying, hey, Rennie, you got the job. And I was like, oh my God, whatever. I was so happy. And she said, let's talk about compensation. So she said, the team wants to offer you 50K. And me being a new grad, no job, I was like, yeah, thank you so much. I'm excited like to start. And her voice was like, okay. And I was like, and then she's like, I'll talk to you later. And it was the most awkward conversation ever. And I was like, okay, like what? But again, I was just happy to have a job. I was not really
Yeah.
concerned about that. And then I told my mom was like, that was weird. And I was like, yeah, it was, but whatever. And then we went to, she called me back like 3 days later and she said, Hi, Reni. So the team has found a little bit more room in their budget for you. So
Hmm.
we are going to offer you 53K. And I was like, okay, like, thank you. And I told my mom was like, I've never heard of anyone coming back to offer you more money. Like
Money.
that's not even a thing that happens. So when I actually started, I went on I was seeing everybody's salaries, first of all, in the role that I was in. So I was seeing what they were offering new grads. And I also saw that the minimum band for the what is it? I've been out of corporate for a while. I don't know the lingo, but like the salary band, the
Yeah.
minimum amount they were allowed to pay within my salary band was 53K. So she was
Oh.
basically offering me 50K, assuming I'm gonna ask for like 60K, and then she'll meet me
Yeah.
somewhere, But no, I just accepted it. So she had to literally she literally had to tell me that, oh no, here's more money. So that taught me a lesson. And I was like, okay. So the next time after that, I went to my manager like maybe a few months later during, I think it was review time, and I asked for a raise. And he gave me a whopping $500 raise. So I was making $53,500. And of course, my paycheck was literally the same. Like there's no difference in that over 52
Yeah.
weeks. But so that taught me a lesson. And then what I did was I went online, I researched so much about how do you actually ask for a raise and get that raise. And they told me that you need to be communicating with your manager from early, like
Yeah.
from every single one-on-one, you talk about, okay, I would like to get to the next level in my career. What are the steps that I need to take in order to get there? Questions like that, right? So I was watching podcasts or listening to podcasts. I was watching YouTube videos. Like I was on my A game. And then when I got and then they also talked about salary negotiation and how you always bit higher than what you actually want because they're going to meet you
Mhm.
somewhere in the middle. So again, I told you I moved to marketing like a year later and they
Yeah.
offered me 60K. And of course, this was a big jump. I could have just accepted the 60K, but I was like, how about 65? And I think I was shaking. Like I literally think I was shaking as I said it, but they gave me 63. And I was like,
Mm.
it works. Like it actually works. I think again, it's about proving to yourself constantly that you can just do things. You can just try things and maybe they will work, maybe they won't, but it's worth a try. So 63K. The next year I got another promotion. And by the time I left, I was at like 73K, I believe. So that was just a few years, like 2 or 3 years. So I just learned that you need to ask for what you want and that they are literally assuming that you are going to, excuse me, sorry. They are literally assuming that you are going to negotiate. So you should always negotiate. Yeah. And I even made lots of YouTube videos about it because I was like, if I learned this at this age, then I should be teaching it to everybody. So the people who are younger than me do not make this mistake when they enter the workforce. So yeah.
Yeah. No, right. That's great to hear. The common theme across your story is, like I'm just gonna shoot my shot, and you know what? If it works, it works, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's kind of switch gears a little bit here. This you just mentioned something as you were ending. You said you realize that if you learning how to negotiate salaries help you so much, it would help other people. So you created content about that. Is that
Mhm.
how most of your content has kind of been? Has it been from? I mean, I know looking at it from the outside, it's like Brennan is just helping people, right?
Mhm.
But has that always been the case? Is that intentional? Because there's people who create content who is just like, this is what I want to make. It's not really because anybody needs this. I just feel like making this. But
Yeah.
your content is very much geared towards helping the community. Like, where's that
Yeah.
from?
I feel like it's my because I feel so fortunate and privileged to have parents that taught me about financial literacy from a very young age. I feel kind of like paying it forward to other people. And I do that through my content because I realized that, so I didn't mention, but I was working in wealth management and I was the only Black woman. Like it's a very white male dominated space. And in that space, I was helping them, attract ultra high net worth clients but also talk to them about TFSAs and RSPs and FHSAs, right? Or not FHSAs at the time, but different investing accounts. And I was like, if these millionaires need this information, then I think my friends also need this information. So I started
Yeah.
like teaching my friends just one on one, and then they would come to my house and I would just teach them a little bit about these topics. This is even before Like even when I was in university, I would just teach my friends about it. And then I just felt like this information is very helpful. And when I go on YouTube to learn more about it, all I see is older white men. Like I don't see anyone who looks like me. I don't see anyone our age. And that just makes me feel like maybe this isn't for me. Maybe building wealth is not something that like black people do basically.
Mm,
But because I had the positive role model of my parents, it made me know that, okay, actually this is for me. But I realized that other people who don't have parents that talk to them about financial literacy, they would not know that this is a thing that they can actually do. So I just felt like, let me just join YouTube, start being the face of personal finance for Black women in Canada specifically. And it turned out pretty well because there weren't many Black women creating content about that at all. And yeah, I'm very happy. Like my whole goal is to help people really. I've always been like that. Even when I was much younger, I
yeah.
was just somebody who liked to help people and share information. You know, that kid in school who would like help the kid, like I would do my homework and then I would show my homework to the kids who didn't do their homework so they would be able to copy off me. Like that was me. So I've never been a gatekeeper. I'm always like, yeah, learn from what I did and yeah. So now I have a career doing that and it feels really good to actually help people through my work and get compensated well for it rather than working a 9 to 5 helping rich people get richer. So yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, yeah, we can see through the content that like this is helping people. And I was going through some of your videos and even like your earlier content, and I was like reading some of the comments, and you can literally see people saying, "This is so helpful, Rennie. Can you do a video about this?"
Yeah.
And then a
Yeah.
couple of weeks later, I'll see, oh, there's the video.
Yeah, honestly. And that's how I get most of my content ideas. Like, it's just people saying, hey, I need help with this. And when enough people ask about a question, I'm like, yeah, if 5 people have asked about this, then I know 500 people probably have the same concern. So let me just make a
Yeah.
video about it.
Yeah. Hey there. I had to interrupt the podcast episode to tell you about the Clarity 7 Communication Guide. This guide is for you if you've ever struggled with your communication, if you've struggled with passing a message across, being clear and concise in your communication, or if you just struggle with confidence in communicating, this guide is for you. I'm not an expert, I'm not a communication guru, I'm just a guy who's found some steps that worked and just wants to share that with his community. So if you need some help with your communication, this guide is for you. It's free. Get it in the description below. It's in the description of the podcast. Wherever you're watching or listening, get it and improve your communication today. I'm rooting for you always. Let's get back to the pod. Now, Rennie, one of the things I love about the way you kind of approach like building a community and engaging with your community, you do like these questions on Instagram and stuff. And the other day, I saw you do, I think this was a couple of weeks back, I saw you do a bunch of questions. I think you said, ask me anything. And the number of questions you got, I was like, this feels like a town hall.
And you know, I didn't finish. I didn't even finish all the questions I got. That's the
Wow.
craziest part. Yeah.
So I guess the question I was going to ask you is, how do you handle all of this and not become overwhelmed? Because it can be a little bit challenging trying to balance, content creation and then brand deals and sponsorships and speaking engagements and all of that. How do you balance all of that?
Great question. So the Ask Me Anything was created so that I can balance everything
Mm.
else. So what used to happen was people would be in my DMs every day and, I would open it and I'd be like, I don't have the capacity to respond to this. But then because they've seen that you read it, they're like, hello, question mark, question mark, question. They're stressing me out. So I actually created the Ask Me Anything back in 2022, and I've done it almost every Thursday since 2022, which is
Mm.
insane to think that there's still questions that people have since then. But it was so that I could streamline everything. And it's like, I don't respond to DMs anymore. So please, if you have questions, Thursdays are your day to ask. Send a
Yeah.
message on there. And if I get to it, I'll get to it. If I don't, well, you can book me for a one-on-one. And that was what I used to do. Now I don't even offer one-on-ones because they're very time consuming. So the
Mm.
way I balance it all is I have basically done an audit of my time and I've said, what do I actually want to spend my time doing? And also, if I'm spending my time doing it, is there a way that I can not monetize it so that it's worth my time? Because as a business owner, every minute is money that you're spending. So I need
That's
to make
right.
sure my time is spent well. So for example, I used to do one-on-ones with people. I would charge $150 per hour. So you can sit with me for an hour, talk, ask me any questions that you want about any topic. Some people booked for content creation, some people booked for finance, whatever they want to learn about. And it was going really well. I probably had, I don't know, 400 bookings. Like it was very busy. But the thing
Yeah,
is, it takes up so much time and it's not scalable because it's only me
exactly.
that they want to talk to. It's not like I could say, here's a team member and talk to them. No, they want to talk to me, right? So I decided that although this is profitable and I'm making a lot of money from it, I want to redirect all of my efforts into my accountability group, which is group coaching. So it allows me to travel, to be away from my computer for hours and not feel like, and also make great money doing it. So I feel like it's really the habit of auditing my time on a regular basis has been something that has truly, truly helped me to be able to manage everything. And also speaking engagements, I have a get out of bed fee. It's like, if you're not paying at least this much money, unfortunately, I'm not speaking at your event.
I love that.
Like I just don't have it in me anymore. And again, I calculated that based on I want to make X number of dollars this year. So this is what I have to charge. And for speaking gigs, it's like you're driving there, you're
Mhm.
prepping for the speaking gig, you're speaking for an hour, then you're driving home. That's at least 4 hours. So the one, if you want to pay me $100, unfortunately, I can't do it. I cannot. I cannot. Yeah. Yeah. But that's
No, I
really what's
love.
helped me. And then,
Yeah.
sorry, I was going to say also outsourcing as well. I started to outsource a lot,
Okay.
especially this year. And this year has been my most profitable year. So I think it really helps. So I have a virtual assistant. I have people who help me run my accountability group. Game changer for sure.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, Reni, I love the intentionality behind, like, it's almost like you're designing the life you want, is how I
Yeah.
would put it. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't enjoy this, it takes too much time, and I don't make a lot of money from this. I'm not doing that.
X. Yeah. Exactly. And I love to travel obviously. So my life, I don't live to work. I work so
Hmm.
that I can enjoy the best life possible, especially when I don't have any kids or dependents. Like I want to be
Hmm.
outside. I don't want to be in my house all the time. And if I have one-on-ones, I have to well, I can do them from anywhere in the world, but you know, it's harder when you're on vacation and then you have to quickly set up for a one-on-one. I don't want I don't want that. So I truly decided that I want to live a life that is flexible. And I also want to
Yeah.
live what I call a work optional life, which means
Hmm.
that if I want to work, I can. If I don't want to work, I don't have to. And that is the goal. So we're getting there slowly but surely.
Dang, I love it. I love it. Now, Rennie, someone listening to this might be saying, okay, um, she probably has this option because of what she does, and essentially like kind of like doubting that this is a possibility. How would you encourage anyone who's like working a typical 9 to 5 to eventually get to this kind of place where they're able to now say, you know what, these are things I enjoy doing, and this is what I want to spend my time doing.
I feel like it's honestly a mindset shift that people need to have where it's like, I'm not, obviously we have responsibilities, we have things around that we have to take care of, but it's like I don't have to stay in a place very long if I do not want to, basically. And you're not a tree, you can move. And I think you
Mm.
can see that in my story. Like I stayed in that marketing or the first business analysis job for less than a year and then I moved on to the next thing. So I feel like I've been consistent in trying new things and being able to move, but it's a mindset that I have that allows me to do that. It's like, okay, yes, you dedicated 1 year to this. Yes, you've been a business analyst for 4 years, but if you don't like this anymore and if the lifestyle doesn't appeal to you, then you can always move. And of course you'll have to retrain. You may have to network, but remember the year is going to pass regardless. So you might as well spend that year doing things that will get you closer to the goal that you want. And also, I think it's not just a mindset shift, but it's also knowing what you want out of life. Most people don't know what they want. They don't know
Mm.
if they want to, like, I don't know. My goal for my life again is to have a life that I can just travel as much as I want, as much or as little as I want. And also a life that when I have kids, I will be able to be present in their lives and not have, like, I want to be able to go to every ballet class, whatever, swimming class, everything possible. And I want the flexibility to do that. So this career that I've created allows me to do those things. So I think it's more about understanding, even if I'm in a 9 to 5, there are 9 to 5s that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So there are levels to 9 to 5s. You don't have to become an entrepreneur, but you can choose a 9 to 5 that aligns with your life that you want. But first, you need to understand what kind of life you want before that. So I always like to do a vision board exercise. That's the first thing I do in my accountability group with everything. Let's envision what your future life will actually look like, because I
Yeah.
want to see, like, most people have never dreamed big enough to even change the habits that they have now, because what's the incentive to change the habits if I don't have a dream? Like, there's no incentive. You get, you get what
Mm,
I'm saying?
yeah.
There's no incentive
Yeah.
to change your habits. So I think also surrounding yourself with people who are doing better than you is really inspirational. The way that I knew really, honestly, that I could make $10,000 a month is I went to Dubai once with my dad. And obviously you don't need to go to Dubai to do this, but I went to Dubai and I met this girl who she works in tech, I guess. And or I don't know what she did, but she did something and she was doing it from her laptop. We're talking about taxes and how Dubai is whatever. And then she told me that she makes $10,000 a month from her laptop. And I was just like, what? And this is when I'm
What?
working at BMO still, making like $3,500 a month.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's possible. And again, she's working a 9 to 5. It's not like she was doing an entrepreneurship. So that just opened my
Mm,
mind to, wait, one, there are other jobs in 9 to 5 that can make lots of money. And two, she has the flexibility to work from anywhere because she has a fully remote job. So these jobs are out there. Last year I went to Senegal as well, and I met these people at the BAL, which is the Basketball Africa League, which is essentially the NBA in Africa. And
yeah.
they have the coolest jobs. One of them is like a coach. She does like mindset coaching for the players of the league. Another one does, her job is to bring celebrities to the BAL. Like, that's like just fly around the world and bring celebrities and invite celebrities to the different games that they have. And I was like, there are jobs out there, but you'll never know unless you actually ask questions, talk to people, and expand your mindset outside of like the little bubble that you currently have. So yeah.
No, that's solid advice, man. And I think a lot of people are stuck in what they currently know, and it just feels like that's all they know. So it's very easy to just think, oh, this is all there is, but
Yeah.
essentially what you're saying is by like enlarging your vision, then you can actually like dream a whole lot more, and you can see beyond like what's currently in front of you. No, I
Exactly.
love
And you
that.
can
That's
see
that's awesome.
what steps you need to take in order to get to wherever you want to be. But you can't do it unless you have a vision of what you want to achieve.
Now, Rennie, I guess kind of switching gears here. Um, we're in an era where personal branding and all of that stuff is like so important. Even if you're in 9 to 5 or you're an entrepreneur, like you need to have an online brand. You need to, be almost like everyone's a content creator now. So this is why I'm asking this question, right? Because
Yeah.
what advice would you give to anyone who's just getting started in content or just getting started in personal branding? Because it can be quite overwhelming for people who have not been involved at all. And and now they're hearing everyone say, without a personal brand you can't even attract jobs. Without a personal brand you can't attract customers. So like, how
Yeah.
would you, like, what would you say to these people?
Yeah, if you're in a 9 to 5 and you are trying to build your personal brand, I'll say you don't need to become a content creator or anything in order to have a solid personal brand. What your personal brand is it's basically how people think of you when they hear your name or they see your face. And the reality is, whether you like it or not, you already have a personal brand, but maybe you are just not in control of what it is, or you haven't been mindful in curating your personal brand. So the exercise that you can do is go to 5 people that currently know you and ask them for 3 words to describe you. These should be like a coworker, a friend, a family member, like different people in different parts of your life, and ask them for 3 words that describe you. If all those words are very different, like there's no congruency in anything that has been said, your personal brand is scattered and it's all over the place. But the good thing is that now you have the chance to mold your personal brand into whatever you want it to be. So same thing, when I started creating content, or even before that, when I was working in the business analysis role, I first I wanted to get into marketing. So I started to brand myself as a marketer. I was like, I studied marketing. I started to post articles about marketing on LinkedIn. I'm sure if someone scrolled all the way back to 2018 and 2019, they would see the switch from like, I went from talking about business analysis to now posting about marketing. And I was just very intentional so that people knew me as someone who was good at marketing and was passionate about marketing. And a lot of times when people are trying to hire you, they're going to search you up and see, oh, this person talks about marketing. They're passionate about it. Like it's not just your resume, but it's everything that comes along with it. So
Yeah.
I would say that if you are trying to pivot your career or just try to establish yourself as a expert in your current field that you're in, personal branding is everything. And again, it could just be one LinkedIn post a week. I know it's a little cringe to post on LinkedIn, it feels weird, but it could be as simple as you resharing some content on about, like, let's say you're in the environmental sustainability space, you could post an article and give your thoughts on the article. Or if you complete a really big project at work, you can post about that project, of course, as long as it's not confidential. If you attend an event that was cool, regardless if it's related to your niche or not, you can post about that. It doesn't have to be too much, like a 1 or 2 line. Right now, we have ChatGPT. It can create the captions for you at this point. So it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be hard. But I do think it's important to be visible online because that's just how people are judging candidates at this point. And if you want to be the person that opportunities are coming to you without you actually having to go to those opportunities and your name is being said in rooms that you aren't in, you need to be on people's minds. That's why, like, as you said, if you think of personal finance in Canada, my name is probably going to come up. And it's not
Yeah.
just because I create personal finance content. It's because I'm always sharing about finance and what, regardless of what I talk about, I'm always sharing about finance. So even when I talk about travel, I'll talk about the finance behind it. I want to be known as the finance girly, and I want any opportunity that has to do with finance. I'm your girl. I'm the one that you come to. So yeah,
Yeah, I guess Rennie, quick one. Now, how you getting the name Rennie the Resource?
yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
So I wanted to brand myself, but I didn't want to, because I'm so multifaceted and I would say I'm a multi hyphenate. I didn't want to just, like, obviously finance is my primary niche, but I didn't want to just limit myself to finance. Like, I know some people will call themselves like budget, whatever, or money, Rennie the money girl or whatever, but I wanted to make sure that my brand was more broad so that I can talk about a variety of topics. And all you know is that I will always share resources about whatever topic that I'm talking about. So that's how I got the name. And it was also, R and R, right? It sounded nice. So yeah.
It's solid. It's gold.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's gold. So, Rennie, I don't want to keep you too long. I guess I just have sort of a final question for you, and I wrote this down because I wanted to be very intentional about it. So here's the question: You teach financial literacy, but what part of your own money journey would you say you're still figuring out?
That's a good question. I've been on a lot of podcasts and I've never been asked this question. What part of my money journey am I still finding? Hmm. 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 I don't know. I feel like maybe taking more risk with investments would be something that I'm figuring out. But I used to, and then I just decided I didn't want to do it because it's a lot of work, and I'm trying to be a lazy girl investor. But hmm, I feel like the things that are like crypto or options or anything trading that you need a lot of time and effort to
Mhm.
tackle, I am just not willing to give it. But I feel like that's a personal choice. It's not like I can't do it. It's just a personal choice. What am I not? What am I not? I don't know. This is a good question. I feel like I'm kind of stumped. I'm kind of stumped by this question. Um, I actually don't know the answer to this question. What am I figuring out? I feel like I don't know.
I mean, and that's also an answer though, because
Yeah.
like a lot of times we don't always have like it might just linger a little bit more in your mind, and then something might pop up a week from now, right?
Yeah, I'll be thinking about it for sure.
But I like the fact that, like, even though you're not dabbling into these sort of like riskier, or I'd say more time consuming sides of investment, I like the fact that you're already aware of them, right?
Yeah.
So if need be, you can always like decide, you know what, I'm gonna go into this, I'm gonna look into that. Now, okay, Randy, final question.
Okay.
Um, you mentioned that you bought your first home at age 23.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not trying to put your age out there or whatever, but all I'm gonna say is the way the housing market has shifted in a couple of years,
I
a lot
have.
of people are gonna be saying, yeah, that was years ago, I can't do this now.
Fair.
So for anyone who's listening or watching who's living in Canada, what are the steps you would say they could take towards getting that first home? Because now down payments are crazy, the house prices are crazy. What would you like, practical steps they can take today and get started on today to get in that first home?
Yeah, so I agree. I want to acknowledge that the market has changed significantly. I bought in 2020 when I was 23. Now I'm 28, and I probably could not afford, maybe I could, but it would be a lot harder to afford the property that I bought than now. So I want to acknowledge that. If you do want to buy your first house, I think it's important to, first of all, understand what you're getting yourself into. I feel like I bought not knowing what all the costs that are associated with home ownership. It was just like, yeah, let's buy a house. But I did not really understand everything that went into it. So you need so I think working with professionals, for example, working with a mortgage broker who can tell you, okay, this is how much you will qualify for if we get a mortgage for you. That means you can afford. Let's say they'll give you a $500,000 loan for your home, which your $500,000 mortgage. You just need to take that number and also figure out what the monthly payments will be, so that you can see if you can truly afford that on the salary that you are currently earning. Because I feel like a lot of people never run the numbers and they're house poor because the house is taking up 90% of their income every single month. So they can't really enjoy life or anything like that. So I think if you want to buy a house, first run the numbers and see how much you can afford. Aside from what the mortgage broker says, how much can I afford to add to my monthly spending every single month? Then meet up with a real estate agent who can then show you houses in your range and also calculate how much do I need to save for my down payment. I think it's all about working backwards. Know the numbers
Mhm.
first and then save towards those. And maybe it'll take you a year, maybe it'll take you 2 years to save towards that. But I think it's better to actually save and put a solid down payment down than to put, 5% down and then you're struggling to handle the mortgage every single month. So I think that's what I would do. It'd just be a step-by-step process of working backwards from the bigger number to the monthly expenses to, okay, what do I currently make? Then going to see those houses and then starting the process from there. But the saving, ideally, if you're if you're going to save towards the property, then use the FHSA, which is the first home
Mm,
savings account. It's a really
yeah.
good perk that we now have in Canada where you can put up to $8,000 per year into the account, and then it will lower your taxable income for the year, which is great. So let's say you make $90,000 and you put $8,000 in your FHSA. Instead of being taxed on $90,000, you're now going to only be taxed on $82,000, which will give you a nice tax refund come tax time. And then when you take the money out, let's say you put the money in your FHSA and you invest it in the FHSA. So let's say it grows from $8,000 to $9,000 or something. That $1,000 normally would be taxed, but because it's in this account, it is now tax free. So I
Hmm.
think those are you just have to utilize everything that's at your disposal and run all the numbers and don't be in a rush to purchase your house. A lot of people who rush to purchase their house, especially in 2021 and 2022, are feeling the struggles now because the market didn't keep going up. Actually, it's gone down. People who bought in the peak of 2022, they're struggling to sell it even at the same price that they bought it back then. So don't be in a rush. Take your time. This is a big decision. Probably the most money that you'll ever spend at once in your life. So you just want to make sure that you are spending it mindfully, not just willy nilly putting down $50,000 on a house that you may not be able to afford long term.
That is that is balanced advice, solid advice. It's wise. I love it. Like,
Thank you.
take a step back I don't know. I think one thing I'm going to take from this podcast, running with you, is that just work backwards from like the goal, whatever it is you're trying
Yeah,
to achieve. We just work back. I'm going to take that
exactly.
as a personal takeaway, But everyone else, I guess you guys heard it. If you're looking to buy a home, like it doesn't get more practical than that, right? And I like it because everyone gets to cut their coat according to their size. Or how do they say
Yeah.
that expression, right? So
Yes, very important.
yeah. So, Rennie, I don't want to keep you any much longer, but I just wanted to say thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on here. I will put your links in the bio and the description of this podcast, but I don't know if you want to just say, oh, shout out anything that you have coming up or just plug something, I guess.
Yeah, I have a few things to plug, shameless plug. So, first, I have a live event happening in Toronto on July 19th. So, tickets will be out shortly, but it is where my dad is actually going to come teach us all about financial literacy. So, I will do
Nice.
like a live podcast recording. So, I do have a podcast called Don't Go Broke Trying, where I teach people how to not go broke trying to live their best life. So, you can check us out there and live if you're in Toronto, come through and meet me. I also have a collective or an accountability group called Don't Go Broke Collective, where I teach people every month. We have a different topic and we teach you about investing, but we also teach you about a different topic. So this month, for example, was debt repayment. And I had somebody who has $50,000 of debt. And last year in the group, she was able to pay off a significant chunk and she's still doing it this year. And the goal is to be debt free by next year. So she was telling us her journey and how she was able to do it. And it's practical, helpful, and I think that you should join the group. So yeah. And then also I'm on Instagram and YouTube at XORENI.
That's great. Well, there you have it, everyone. Rennie, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for coming on the Men Rose podcast. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I had a fantastic time. I hope you did as well.
I did. Thank you for having me.
That's great. Well, there you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I guess like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff that we do on YouTube. And if you just want to send some sort of feedback as well, just letting us know how well you enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions as well, just put it in there. We'll get to it. But thanks for hanging with us. Till next time. God bless.